Hey everybody, this is Danny Davis, the Austin American-Statesman, and this is your Longhorn Confidential for Tuesday, October 28th. Only a two-man pod today. We got David Eckert in the room. Said took a day off. He's been doing the last few of these, so we had to give him a week break, and TJ is off chasing some stories somewhere. So me and Eckert got to handle it. Going to talk about some Vanderbilt. Going to talk about some maybe a quarterback that got hurt. I don't think we're going to talk about the Sark NFL mess, but Eck, we'll start right with the story of the day. Texas is now 6-2, 3-1 in SEC play after back-to-back overtime wins on the road. This past weekend at Mississippi State, came back from a 17-point deficit in the fourth quarter for a 45-38 win. But afterwards, we weren't talking about the seventh largest comeback in school history. We weren't talking about Ryan Niblett, regardless of how fabulous he's been on special teams. It's all about number 16. Arch Manning had a really good game. Best road start of his career so far, but on the first play of overtime, took a hit, exited the game. When we talked to Steve Sarkisian on Monday, Arch was still in the concussion protocol, so that kind of puts his status for this weekend in jeopardy. If Arch isn't going to play, conceivably, Matthew Caldwell will be the next man up. He came in through a touchdown pass at Mississippi State, the game winner. So we'll start with there. Can this Texas team with number 9 Vanderbilt coming in this weekend, can they win this game and possibly more games down the road if this concussion thing tends to be a long-term problem for Arch? Can they win with Matthew Caldwell?
Can they? Yes, 100%. Are they likely to? That's a different question. But I don't know. I mean, look, Matthew Caldwell has played well in like the 2 snaps or 3 snaps he's been called upon to play. But I don't think we know anything about Matthew Caldwell at this point, right? I mean, aside from his track record, I'm not deriving a whole lot from the Mississippi State overtime and the one throw he made against Florida. Aside from, hey, he's got a little bit of moxie, which I guess matters, but I think they're going to need good quarterback play to beat Vanderbilt, not okay quarterback play, not quarterback play that doesn't lose you the game. I think they need good quarterback play. So are you going to get that from Matthew Caldwell? I'm skeptical. Can they? Sure. But I don't necessarily think it's the most likely outcome.
You're downplaying his San Jose State clips. Came in the fourth quarter in that game. Looked all right. I think this is going to be about coaching. I think if Steve Sarkisian is the offensive genius that Texas fans are led to believe he is, and that he kind of has developed this reputation, then you shouldn't just be able to succeed with a 5-star quarterback. Matthew Caldwell, he is a veteran guy. This is his 5th year of college. He doesn't have all the stars and all the accolades, but he does have some experience. And if you liked him enough to make him your backup quarterback with a KJ Lacey on your roster, with a Trey Owens on your roster, I mean, there must be something that Steve likes in what he brings to the table, and he showed with a week the game plan. And Vanderbilt maybe not having that much game film to study on him, you should be able to put a game plan together to use his strengths. They may need to figure out how to run the football. They may need to lean a little bit more on that defense and on special teams, but this is Steve Sarkisian's paid a lot of money, and this is one of the reasons he's paid a lot of money to try to game plan, for these emergency situations, much like Steve did when Quinn went down and they had to game plan around Arch, or when Quinn went down, they had to game plan around Malik Murphy. Granted, those were guys with more pedigree and more stars and a better reputation as far as their on-field capabilities, but this is college football. You're always one hit away. And if Matthew Caldwell goes down, Steve better have a plan for KJ Lacey. Probably doesn't need a plan for Trey Owens, but you better have a plan for those other guys on the team. So this is what coaching's about. Can they win? I think I'm picking them this weekend. I picked them against Arkansas, but Georgia's going to be another story in 2 weeks if Arch isn't back and they have to go to Athens with the backup quarterback. But at least for this week, with a week for the prep time, I think they can definitely win with a veteran quarterback like Matthew Caldwell. But aside from Matthew Caldwell, he's not playing 1-on-11. There's going to be 10 other guys in the offense if he is indeed the guy this weekend. Who else would need to step up on this offense to help make up for the potential loss of Arch Manning?
I'm going to go with Ryan Wingo. because I think Texas is going to need a transformational offensive performance from one of its skill guys. And I don't think you're going to get that from either your running backs at this point. I don't think, whether you can say, you can argue about whether, hey, that's a Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter issue or an offensive line problem. But I think what you've seen so far this year is you're just not going to get like a grab the game by the fists and control it performance from your O-line. That's just not in the range of outcomes. So I think, hey, Ryan Wingo had one of those performances last week. Can he do it again? If you look around, he's a guy who has the athleticism to create an explosive play close to the line of scrimmage, right? If Steve Sarkisian's gonna, as you mentioned, kind of craft a game plan that makes it easy for Matt Caldwell, the type of plays that you saw Wingo break for, I think 60 and 47 yards against Mississippi State are gonna feature a lot. So he's my pick. I think Texas is gonna need him big time on Saturday.
As improbable as it seems at this point, I pick either CJ Baxter or Contravian Wisner. I mean, they need to get something established on the run. You cannot be one-dimensional with a backup quarterback, and you cannot expect Matthew Caldwell to come in and throw. Yeah, it's great when he threw that one pass against Mississippi State or that one pass against Florida, but you can't be expecting to throw it 50 times. So one of these running backs is going to need to step up. This offensive line is going to need to get his act together. I mean, some of those highlights or lowlights that are coming out of that game on Saturday were like, oh, woof. But that whole unit, whether you put on the running backs, whether you want to put on the offensive line, they need to figure it out. I'll just put it on the two running backs because they're the veteran guys. Both of them came to media on Monday, so honestly, they're voices on that team that Texas expects to step up. And CJ Baxter, maybe now that he's 2 games back, will be even more rearing to go and chomping at the bit. So I'll go with those running backs. But I do agree that Ryan Wingo, if he can replicate that, whatever 184, whatever he had this past, actually didn't score, which is kind of the most surprising about that thing. Or some of those other receivers would step up to, that'd be ideal for this Texas team this weekend. Arch, not the only player wearing number 16. He's probably not going to play this weekend. Michael Taaffe sat out last week after having some thumb surgery. I think the timeline that's been reported by most, but Texas hasn't given an official timeline, is missing 2 games, get the week off, then be back for Georgia. So assuming Michael also isn't playing this weekend, which number 16 do you think Texas needs back? I'm going to make the case for Michael Taaffe. I know what your answer was, but I do think, going back to what I said earlier, obviously Arch is a unique talent, and he is coming off probably his best game this season, probably has a lot of confidence and all that stuff. But if Steve is this offensive-minded coach, you should be able to figure it out. You should be able to scheme, game plan, do something to get you by until you can get Arch out of the concussion protocol. I'm concerned after that Mississippi State game, watching them give up 450 yards of offense to a Blake Chapin-led offense, that this defense severely misses its senior leader, its quarterback at the backfield. Obviously, they have other talents with Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, other guys that can step up, and it may be easier to replace the safety. But you look at their remaining schedule, 3 of their next 4 quarterbacks are Heisman Trophy contenders. Diego Pavia this week, I think, is number 5 in the Heisman odds right now. Marcel Reed over at A&M, he is number 4. Gunnar Stockton's top 10 too. So with those quarterbacks coming up, you probably want your senior All-American safety back there. So that's my Arch. I think Arch is obviously probably the answer, but a pull-up would get 90% of the responses. But that's my case for Michael Taaffe. Have I convinced you?
I'm going to go with Michael Taaffe too. And I'll say, don't forget about Taylon Green of Arkansas and that cadre of quarterbacks either. I mean, he can sling it, They might put up 45 and give up 62. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, if you look at the 2 worst defensive performances of the year for Texas are Florida and Mississippi State. Both, I would say, Mississippi State's offensive numbers are better because they play at a ridiculous pace, but they're not a super efficient offense, right? They just have more plays than most teams. 2 not very good offenses, but 2 really poor Texas defensive performances. And what did both of those performances have in common? You're missing a starter in your secondary, right? Texas didn't have Malik Muhammad in that Florida game. They didn't have Michael Taaffe last weekend. So I think I'm concerned about what I've seen from the depth in Texas's secondary in the absence of some of those guys. I think there's a reason that not many of them leave the field ever. um, and so, yeah, I think it's really important for them to get Michael Taaffe back, and I would not be surprised if Diego Pavia just kind of goes off this weekend, because it just hasn't been pretty when they haven't had their guys back there.
With or without Arch and Michael, Texas will be at DKR this weekend for the first time in 42 days. Very long stretch without football on campus for Texas fans, but 11 a.m. kick between number 20 Texas, numbers 9 Vanderbilt, which is 7-1, also 3-1 in SEC play. ABC for watching at home if you can't make it to campus. But with Commodores coming into town, Eck, what's one thing you've learned about this Vanderbilt team aside from the record and Diego Pavia? If we're going to take Diego off the tape, but what else have you learned about Vanderbilt?
You're going to see some really, really weird, fun stuff with their offensive line. A little bit of a football throwback. So what they do is, I mean, at Texas, right, you have a left tackle and a right tackle, right? Like that's designated. But what Vanderbilt does is they align their offensive linemen according to which hash of the field that they're on, right? They have strong side offensive linemen and quick side offensive linemen. So their left guard and their left tackle and their right guard and their right tackle are just going to switch a bunch. And I think that's really fun. They have their offensive line coach is Chris Klinakis. I hope I'm saying that right. He did this with Lamar Jackson at Louisville a bunch. He's been doing this for years. It's just his philosophy. And I mean, Vandy's got a really good running game. It's been working for him. So I think that'll just be a fun thing to watch. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it causes Texas some problems.
I think Hero Canoe, when we talked to him yesterday at media availability, he was talking about watching film of Travis Schaff and both be like, excuse me, what exactly has happened there? So Texas probably, going over that in film this weekend so they're not too confused when everyone actually gets in the field. You mentioned the run game. That's my fun fact. I mean, if you're an Austin area football fan, Cedric Alexander, the Commodores starting running back, second leading rusher behind Diego. He's an Austin kid, went to LBJ. He's the Austin School District's all-time leading rusher. Shout out to his grandmother who works at the school my son used to attend. We love Miss Lori, so shout out to her. But Cedric has scored 10 times this season. He's a receiving and a passing threat, and he has seemingly kind of started a little pipeline from East Austin to Nashville because a member of Vanderbilt's 2026 class is Antoine Baker, who's a defensive back at LBJ right now. So we got some Jags turned Commodores, and that starts with Cedric, who's looking forward to his homecoming. We got to talk to him in May when he's home doing a youth football camp, and this game was circled on his list. He's excited to get to play in front of his family and friends, and Texas is definitely going to have him circled on their scouting report. Unfortunately, he won't be able to play, like a Michael Taaffe and some of these maybe some Austin kids he grew up with, but he's definitely got this game circled on his list. But before we get out of here, wrap up this podcast, the most important question, I didn't tell Eck about this, but Friday's Halloween. And so we had to ask, what is Eck's favorite Halloween candy?
Oh my God. Wait, can I talk about my Halloween costume? Because I think it's elite. Can I go there?
You can audible.
Okay, but I'll give you my candy too. But okay, so for Halloween this year, it's like a ghost, right? Like a sheet of ghost, like a ghost sheet, but it looks like cured meats, and I'm the Gabagool, okay, for Halloween. It's my favorite Halloween costume I've ever had. Anyway, Kit Kats, huge Kit Kat guy. You're gonna say candy corn, aren't you? You're loading up for some candy corn.
I am so I was upset today because I went to the grocery store before we taped, and my grocery store was out. My HEB was out of candy corn, and I was not pleased about it because I love to stack up on that candy corn because it's obviously kind of a little bit of a seasonal thing, and people either love it or they hate it, and I'm on the love it side, which more for me. Any candy corn you get and dumped into your Halloween basket, bring to the office, leave it on my thing. I don't really have a desk in the office, but leave it where I normally sit when I do come in the office, and I'll be happy to eat it.
Ugh, horrifying. I just like it. it gives me like a reaction in my throat to even think about it. Ugh. Anyway, it's fine. You could have it.
Bring some water and get over it, because candy corn's not going anywhere. Yeah, I'm not sure about the Halloween costume, but that's also I guess I'm just a straight up, just a ghost. I don't have explanations behind mine. I'll just be a dad trick or treating with my kiddo this weekend. Who's very excited to go show off his race car costume in the mean streets of Cedar Park as we load up, and I collect my dad tax, which is the best part of Halloween for us fathers, is getting to skim off the top of the buckets.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm sure you and Charlie have a fun time, even if you eat some terrible candy. So.
I'm sure he'll agree with you and be happy to give me all of his candy corn. I'll be chows down on Snickers or whatever. But that's going to do it for us. This is enough Halloween talk. We have lots of content this week on statesman.com. Also, we have all of our stories from obviously Eckert, from me, Seth Golden's pretty much writing every day these days. Thomas Jones is doing his thing as we also start ramping up towards men's basketball, women's basketball seasons. Both those get underway early next week. The women on Monday, the men on Tuesday. The On Second Thought podcast, so Kirk and Said, which drops Thursday. The aforementioned Cedric Alexander will be said in Kirk's guest this week. So, local boy talking to the columnists about the good old days and what the Commoners are bringing to town. And then we also have Aria Gerson from the Tennessean is going to be on the Longhorn Confidential later in the week to give us some more of an in-depth discussion about Vanderbilt and their season that they're having this year. But yeah, so check out our newsletters. Daily Hook'em newsletter. Sets Corner drops on Tuesdays. Sign up for those on statesman.com. So lots of stuff, lots of content. You can't be bored if you're a Texas fan these days, but check that out on statesman.com. We appreciate you watching on YouTube or on the website, listening to us wherever you get your podcast, and we will see you at DKR at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Happy Halloween. Deuces.